Hey everybody, I just wanted to try something new here. This is going to be a YouTube short, a lot shorter than the episodes have been, just to see what we can do with a shorter. And this was by a special request. Somebody asked me for what could we do with historic aerials, and that's what this is going to be about. Now, you have different historic aerials depending on where you are in the country, where you are in the world, depending on what programs are available to you. In Connecticut, the one that I'm going to be using is from Yukon. It's kind of a Yukon Air Photo Archive. And that's pretty much what you're looking at here in this slide. So this is a picture of the state of Connecticut. And each one of these orange dots that you see that are scattered around here was an airplane that was flying back and forth, up and down across the state, taking photographs. And what you notice is that on the right-hand side, there's different layers. Well, the photographs start in 1934 was the first set, and then it went to 51 and kept on going down. And I believe it goes all the way up until the 90s when they stopped using airplanes and they switched over to satellites. One of the cool things about this is that when you look at these, you can get two different elevations. Some of the photographs are taken at 8,000 feet and some are taken at 35,000 feet. And the deal with that is if it's a close up, then you get really sharp resolution. You can see the detail really well. But if you take it further away, that 35,000 feet, it covers a broader area. So it really depends what you're looking at. The sample that I used here is actually from a case that I'm putting together for you on how to go about the whole process. This is the actual technique, but I'll be doing a case study about how I use this in that case. And it was looking for a boys camp. So this is the overall picture of Connecticut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow this down by doing a search. Up in the top right corner, there's a search box. I'm going to type in Red Cedar Lake, Connecticut, USA, because I know that's the location approximate that I wanted to go to. So when I type Red Cedar Lake up at the top, you see the different layers. I'm still under Air Photo 34. It brought me down like a close-up right into this area of Connecticut where it says Red Cedar Lake is, and it's going to allow me to get a little closer. So I'm going to get in tighter. This is a close-up of it where you'll see like these are each of the dots kind of like coming together. And right in the middle where this one is located, that little square box is going to be where you'll find Red Cedar Lake. Now, this is more of a street level map. And one of the things you can do is you can change different layers. I like the street level map when you're trying to isolate and figure out where this place is if you're going to drive there. But I also like to look at the imagery label, which is giving you like the terrain. So this is what it looks like when you have the terrain label some layers selected here. And now what I'm right on is this right in the middle of the Red Cedar Lake. I know that the camp that I'm looking for, I've been looking for here, is in the background here. Now on the side, once you click on that little dot, it gives you some options. The one trick though is that you've got to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Down the bottom is where they have the different maps that they took, and there's JPEGs, PGNs, and TIFFs, and pretty much it depends on your system, but they all will work. Some work better with one system than another. So I just kind of like play around with it and see which one gives me the best map and the best image. So when you click on it, this is what you get. It's a black and white aerial photography. This is of the Red Cedar Lake. And what happens is each of those orange dots, they overlap about 50%. So this is the one that I showed you had the dot pretty much in the center over here. So this is giving you a good representation of the lake area. And up over here is the park that I was really interested in. This is the Red Cedar Park. So Red Cedar Lake Park is what it was called originally. So now I'm going to take you for a little trip. So we've got this, and this is a regular photograph. What I'm going to do is blow it up a little bit. And the reason I'm blowing it up is that I wanted to point out something here. If you look at this smear, this slide, what you'll see is that this is a close-up of the lake, but somewhere on this lake and over on this side was the boys' camp. So I'm wondering if your eyes can focus on where the waterfront was for this boys' camp. So if you scan around the edge of the lake here and you come across, you see that there's this little L shape right there. When we look at it a little closer, I circled it for you here. That little is man-made. That's the dock that was part of the boys' camp. Now, don't forget, this is 1934. This camp, I know from the history of it, I believe started in the late 1920s, and it ran all the way up until 1960. So that kind of intrigued me a little bit because I know it's an old camp. And now I know where the waterfront is just by using that historic aerial. So it's pretty cool. Now, there's some other stuff, though. You get a hint here, and you can see a lot of like foresty kind of land. You see some open areas here. So let's go a little closer. And we're going to do a blow up this. And this is, as you notice, as you get it bigger, you get some detail, but you lose some resolution. So you don't get that tack sharpness that you might want to look for. But the reason I blew this up is that I want to point out some things to you. And usually when I'm doing this with a live presentation with people, I'll ask you like, okay, can you tell me where the tennis court is? And if you look at this, you're kind of like, okay, everything kind of looks a little blurry. But if I focus your eyes down over here in the middle, you'll see this rectangular box. And you actually see a couple lines here. These lines represent the tennis court that was there in 1934. So you know that the kids, and this is a boys' camp, were playing around in this area. Now, if I asked you, can you find me the baseball field? Again, if you look around and you scatter around here, bring your eye up here to about 1 o'clock. You'll see what looks like a diamond. That's actually the bases right there. And there's the mound. And if you look at it, you can imagine that that was the outfield right there. Here's your three bases, your mound, and then your outfield. So you know they played ball there. You know they had to lose stuff there. They're obviously kids, so they were losing stuff over there. So now we've got a baseball field. We've got a tennis court. Let's look around a little bit more. Now that your eyes are getting used to this, if you look up over here, you'll notice that there's 4 rectangular boxes. Guess what those are? Those are the cabins. This is where they stayed. This is part of where they stayed on this Camp Mowing, it was called. Mowing, it was just the name of the camp. And if you look in front of that, though, now you see like an open area, open field. So that's intriguing to me because that means that this is where they played. And when I was reading this, and I'll talk about it in the actual case, there's a lot of activities that went on in this camp, and that was definitely one of the areas that you'd want to search now. So now we've got 4 potential areas. We've got the dock area I showed you before. We've got a tennis court area over here. We've got a baseball field, and now we've got an area where they lived with an open field right in front of it. Now, this is going to pay more of your imagination for your eyes, but if you follow where my pointer is, you'll see a very long, thin rectangular box, and there's like a little darkened area. And then if you watch, you'll see that the rectangular box continues. This whole area is their recreation hall. And the only thing that remains today is the foundations of it. Just like cement foundation. There's nothing else left. Nothing else left of these log cabins except some stairs that are sitting there. But you can see now you've got the recreation hall. And if you look up over here, it's kind of like a clear area. You follow this. This is the old road. This is the road that ran right into the camp. And then right over here, this bigger area is actually the parking lot that was right opposite the recreation hall. So when people came in, this is where they parked. So now you've got an area that probably had some car traffic at one time. So it's pretty fascinating when you look at all this. This is a 1934 map, and you can see the value of using that. So let me just share with you this. This is what it looks like today. A lot different. If you look at the Google Earth today, you can see the difference. So it should be, if it makes that impression on you, big difference by going to the historic maps. And that was the whole point of this whole presentation is, I always go back to the oldest map that's available and start there, because at least that's going to show you a little closer to when the camp was started. And if that was in the 20s, that 30s was definitely a good representation of what was there. So this is the state provided map. This is what I'm going to finish up with. Mowing State Park. Interesting thing, it was called Red Cedar Lake State Park, but the people that camped there petitioned to have the name changed because it meant so much to them. So they renamed it Mowing State Park. This is the map that's provided by the state for it is a state park. We have permissions to go in here and detect. It's all legal. This whole part that's in the yellow is part of the state park. It's, I believe, over 600 acres total. And they show you the hiking trails here. So it is accessible to a lot of the areas that I just showed you. If we look at over here, this is probably where those cabins were located at one time. I've walked it and I've seen that there's the evidence of the cabins, but it's all forested now, as you can see. So I'd love to go back and do that field. If you follow along the path here, you'll see where the recreation remnants are over here. And if you just go up past it, you'll see where the tennis courts was located, and up over here was where the baseball field was located. And if you continue all the way down to this final star here, That's where the waterfront was located at one point. So now you've got, it's kind of like a walking trail to go there. Now, the stars are just used for measuring distance between it. Parking areas right over here, so it's very accessible. And there's also a little kayak launch here. And a bonus, just to point out, you notice there's a couple islands out here. When I do the case study, you'll find out the importance of those, because that was actually part of the camp too. So we'll come back and I'll do the whole history of this little camp as an example of how to do some research on it. And I hope you enjoy it. But I hope you get something out of this. This is my shortest video I think I've ever made. But hopefully it highlighted for you like how to use those aerials. Again, for your state, it'll be similar. You'll have to investigate a little bit. Historic aerials is probably a good way to start. And then, just do some research. A lot of the universities in your area will have that information available to you. So again, thanks for listening. Again, this is probably the shortest one I've ever made. So hopefully you appreciate that too. I know when I usually average like an hour talk, this is a lot shorter for me. So take care, happy hunting, close to the soil and sand, and we'll see you out there soon. Bye.